Good afternoon, everybody. Good evening, good day, wherever you may be throughout the world today. If you're live with us, it's great to have you and welcome you to the Greatest Salesman podcast. My name is Dan McCormick, the ambassador to the Augmandino Company. It is an honor each and every week to go live with you, to be able to bring you the greatest salespeople in the world. Get your journals out today. You're going to get some gems. You're going to get some bombs. You're going to want to write stuff down. You're going to want to tag people in this. You're going to want to message people right now. You're going to text them. You're going to share. You're going to like the show. We're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. It's The Greatest Salesman, Dan McCormick on YouTube, The Greatest Salesman on the Facebook page. Like the page so you're alerted every week that we go live, usually Wednesdays at 2 o'clock. And it's an honor for me to sit in this chair as a 19-year-old young man when this book was put in my hand. No self-esteem, no self-worth, no self-image, didn't really know anything about anything. And I learned how to read again. I learned how to study. I learned a philosophy for living. I learned a philosophy for life through this incredible man that over 50 years ago penned these amazing scrolls, this amazing story. And I couldn't be more thrilled each and every week to challenge our listeners to come on in and like the show, share the show, comment on the show. If you see it at a later date on a podcast site or anything of the nature, leave us a comment, leave us a review. We're always honored by that. And right now, tell us who you are and where you're from so Amanda can add that into the show. And today, I am fortunate, just over a year and a half ago, maybe, I met our guest today through many mutual friends. And he has got a 20-year career and experience in executive leadership training. He's owned companies that are amazing. He'll tell you more about that as he goes, and we'll give you his information on where to find him later. His new book is called Sellership. It's amazing. You can get that on Amazon or I believe on his website at benward.com. But when it comes to the greatest salesman in the world, someone that studied the subject, somebody that lives the inspired words of Augmandino each and every day, it's great to have you here, Ben. How are you doing today?
Amazing. So good to be here. Thank you, Dan.
Well, when we met, obviously, our friend Peter Vidmar, who I just texted, introduced us. You're living in his home while he's living in Australia. And here we are, the newest, the author of this incredible best-selling book I think you were top-selling book on Amazon your first week in your space, right?
Yes, that's right.
Amazing. Blanca, it's great to have you here. And it's so great to welcome everybody. But as everybody knows, when we do the show, when we go live, we love to challenge our greatest salesman individual to share with us 3 things that have impacted their life in a big, big way. And I wonder, Ben, if you could start us off for our listeners today, 3 things that have shaped your life, if you will.
Yeah, the first thing is an idea of CANI, constant and never-ending improvement. And the second thing for me has been probably the most valuable thing that I've learned in 20 years in the trenches, leading sales teams, doing door-to-door teams, and also scaling and nationwide, took our company public. But there's this one principle is the trump card. And every single day it shows up, it's shown up. And I didn't call it this until the last couple of years, but this principle, pluck the FUD. You got to pluck the FUD. So we can talk more about that. And the third thing is probably the most important message learning that I've ever received during one of the hardest times in my entrepreneurial life when I just had lost everything. It was about 10 years ago. And this little idea, my burden is light. And it's a kind of like a spiritual, it kind of goes deep into this one principle that guides me every single day to this day.
Man, I can say every week I'm astounded at what people share. And I love our guests. I mean, Shar, and we got Blanca and Ed here from Chicago, and Shar put it up on the screen. So we're going to have you put that up there in just a minute, pluck the FUD. But let's start off with Can I, because I remember when I learned that principle. But it's interesting that you chose these 3 things. And knowing you, I can understand a little bit about the depth of your thought processes here. Take us through number 1, if you will, on where that impacted you and how it shapes your life.
Yeah, I'll never forget my mentor Brian Tracy. A lot of us know.
And I believe he wrote the foreword to your book, correct?
Yeah. So Brian wrote
Yes,
the foreword, and he's incredible. And I was with him about 12 years ago, and we had dinner. He was going to speak at our event the next day, and I had the just great privilege of taking him to his hotel after we spent some time. It was like a 10-minute drive, and he was about to get out, and we're just chatting. And I asked him, I looked him in the eye. I was like, Brian, if I was your son, and the kind of son that wants to take action, wants to be successful, and is willing to pay the price, if I was that son, of all the things that you've learned over the years, you've written, like, at the time it was like 70 best-selling books. Now it's over 80 best-selling books. And I asked him, what advice would you give? And for all the things you've read, all the things you've written, all the things you've learned and taught, like, what's the trump card? And it's branded in my brain, the look in his eye. He immediately, it was like not even a flinch. I mean, just an absolute pro. It just boom. He said, there's two. He's like, there's two. First one, he said, if you'll continuously learn, if you'll just commit to continuous learning, if you'll just continue to learn, you'll continue to head in the direction that will lead you to the very top. And this idea, I think it was Tony Robbins that was the one who coined "Can and constant and never-ending improvement. But it was Brian Tracy who etched that into my core of, like, okay, I've heard that a lot. Okay, that's nice. But actually, this incredible mentor, this amazing person, this is the one thing that he would recommend. It hit me so profoundly that day and differently. So it's one thing to hear those words, but to hear it from somebody you respect as, like, the thing that will drive results. I'll tell you what, that commitment, something that I strive for is continuous learning and growing, and very intentionally in the areas that I want to learn and grow and to become my natural best.
And, I know that we're going to have a lot of high achievers on this broadcast here today, or listen at a later date. I think a lot of high achievers want that. What is the flow to your day? Where do you commit to that? How does that happen in your life? And perhaps you can get some insight on that.
Yeah. I've developed a ritual where 3 days a week, and I've had this ritual for about 12 years now.
Wow.
And the ritual is, first thing is I'm exercising 3 days a week. I'm exercising and I get a 2-hour workout. And what I found is that I'm not going to do it. It's so hard to actually do it. It's one thing to talk about, but to actually do it. What I do is I fill my mind at the exact same time. So I have a book on tape ready to go the night before, whatever I'm going to listen to that's going to pump me up. And I try to align that. This has been a secret. This has been a key secret for me. I try to align that with, what do I need to accomplish tomorrow? What meetings do I have? What results do I need to create? And that changes based, week to week, month to month, or year to year, depending on what's going on. And having one of the best minds in the world, a book, and I get very deliberate on what I'm going to listen to. And if I have a book that I'm like motivated, excited about, that's going to help me that next day, that helps me to get up out of bed and listen to something while I'm exercising, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, wow. Start physically and mentally. And that even helps my spirit to rise up and kick off the day in the best possible way.
You're a biohacker, man. You're just hacking life. You're trying to get it all done. All right. I remember the first time, by the way, this is amazing stuff. And thank everybody for their comments, and keep sharing and keep encouraging people to join us, because this is going to we're going to get into some deep stuff. And all of you I know are in the world of sales, the greatest salesman in the world. If we haven't met before, my name is Dan McCormick. It's great to have you here. But I remember the first time we met, I think we might have been on the phone right after Kenny Brady introduced us, or Peter Vidmar said we should chat, or something like that. And boom, here I hear this word over the phone, pluck the FUD. And I said, well, wait a minute, slow down a minute. Pluck the FUD. Go ahead. Lay it on us, baby.
Well, here's the reality. So let's think of it like like a garden, if you're growing a garden, inevitably, what's going to creep into the garden, right? Like rhetorical question to you listening. Like there's going to be things creep in, little insects and things, but inevitably weeds are going to creep into that garden. And here's the thing, those weeds, they're going to take up space. They're going to steal the nutrients from whatever you're trying to grow. And worse, they're going to they wrap themselves around and they start choking out whatever you're growing. And so you got to get in and you got to pluck the weeds out of that garden, and if you don't, those weeds will end up plucking out whatever you're growing. They'll choke it, chew it up, and it's just disastrous. And what I've learned that our minds are the exact same way. It's the exact same thing. We may have this beautiful idea plant, right? This like, I'm going to hit XYZ goal and I'm going to hit this dream. I'm going to push towards this, I'm going to start a business and create life on my own terms, or whatever your dream, this goal is. Inevitably, whatever you're pursuing, the weeds of the mind will creep in. It's going to happen. We've all experienced it. That's nothing new. The most common weeds we all experience: fear, uncertainty, and doubt, right? This fear, uncertainty, doubt, or FUD. You got to get in. You got to pluck the FUD out of your brain. And one thing, Dan, that I've learned that the easy part of achieving success, high performance, is learning the skills. The hard part, like anybody can learn the skills. The hard part is guarding our mind when like thoughts that are actual real, like, oh yeah, this is a real challenge. This is really hard. The real thoughts that are actual back of a real situation. The hard part is guarding our minds and taking action, like Og says in Scroll 9, which we'll dive into more. But the easy part is learning the skills. The hard part is guarding our minds and taking action despite fear.
Beautiful. I'm thinking about our time frame here. We're going to need about 3 hours at the pace we're going, because you have so much depth of knowledge and information for people. So let me say number 3 is really fascinating, because I think it's interesting that, because we all have problems, challenges. We deal with friends, family, and loved ones that are going through relationship issues and financial issues and business struggles, etc. And your paradigm is that your burden is light. Why don't you talk to us about that?
When I lost my company again a decade ago, and I drove it into the ground, we had a pretty big operation. We had recruited 2,000 contractors nationwide, and we'd taken the company public a few years before. We'd just highly successful business, and then within a few years drove it to the ground. And one of the hardest experiences was, we're losing our home. We lost our home, foreclosed on, cars ripped out of our driveway, repossessed, and just we weren't able to pay our sales force in our company, our operations, and we're having tough conversations. It was that paints a little bit of the picture, but it was so heavy. It was like too much for me, and it was over this like 6-month period, and it was breaking my back. I had considered this time as, like, to describe it. I think we all have moments in our lives where things can be really tough, and this was one of those for me, where it felt like I was like living in black tar, where just like felt like I was suffocating and sinking in quicksand tar. There's like, and I remember, this gets a little bit like spiritual, but I remember just praying my guts out, being like, and just kind of throwing my hands in the air, being like, this is way too much. It's too heavy. And I was pretty ticked off at God. I'm just like, in the Bible, it talks about like, come unto me and I'll make your burdens light. And I'm just like, no, you aren't. Like, no, you have not. No, you're not there. Why? What's going on? And this one little idea, Dan, this has shaped every single day of my life since. Probably the most meaningful idea that's impacted me to help me move forward and keep going in spite of adversity and challenges. And this little idea that I had that came to me, it wasn't my idea. It just came to me. It's like, no, Ben, my burden is light. Because I had this expectation, and I'll explain what I mean, but I had this expectation that God was going to make it easier for me. He was going to make it light or less heavy. But this little idea that my burden is light, or like right here up on my ceiling, right? Like light or enlightenment, like the burdens that we go through, those things bring enlightenment, knowledge, and the ultimate benefit, which I believe is one of the things that we're here on this earth even doing, is like learning and growing and trying to become better. And through our burdens they turn into light for us. Game changer for me.
It's fascinating as I look back. I'm looking at my other screen over here, and I'm looking at my guest, Dave Blanchard, 2 weeks ago, poured his guts out about what it was like when the house was gone, the cars. Everybody takes that tumble, that deep path, and I'm looking at others that have gone through those difficult challenges and shared along their journey. It's really a common thing, and I think those are three amazing insights. Now, when you first were put in the position to read this book, do you remember when it was? What did it feel like, etc.?
100%. First time, I have so many experiences with this, but the first one was with a friend of mine, Mike Proudfit.
Wow. I love the details.
Yeah, I was sitting in a correlation. We call them correlations. It was a summer sales, and Mike Proudfit, he came in, and he was a leader of the company I was with. He was in a different division of our company, but he came in as a guest, and he literally sat down and read. He was visiting us for a couple weeks and helping out with some things, and he read one chapter a day for the days until we got through them. And I'll never forget looking forward to the next day when Mike Pratt was going to come in his own voice, with Mike's voice, and read this to us and then share his insights. And Dan, what this did for me, the second memory it's coupled with that is when I did not want to get out of the car, scroll number 9, where I will act now. Like, and hearing, and how Ogmandino, how he just puts it so, it's like, I don't know, it's like manna I don't know how to describe it, but it's just like soothing to the soul to like hear how he writes. And when you're up against, as a salesperson, you're up against no promise for the action you're about to take, and you're feeling fear. For me, I was feeling fear. This is like healing balm. Like, I can do this. And this, I can't tell you how many times I wish I had these recorded to like show little moments, but I've been in the car getting ready to jump out to go sell door to door. And Ogmandino's voice, I will act now. I will act now. Those words have ejected me out of the car hundreds of times over the course of a decade. And I'm just super, super grateful for these words right here.
So that's a great analogy, because I remember the days I wasn't a door-to-door guy, but it was a phone. Network marketing early days was all about how many calls you could make and how many appointments you could do. And I will act now is it's actually one of my favorites as well. I needed scroll number 2 more in my life because I didn't have that experience as a young person growing up. But acting now, for all of those that are watching today, yes, indeed, act now. And when you're acting now, and you want to be, how do you look at the world of sales today? And your book is so good. When I think about sellership and some of the words you use, the parable, the way you write, the way you tell the story, I encourage everybody to go to benward.com or go to amazon.com and pick up the book Sellership by Ben Ward. It's absolutely fantastic the way you wrote, because it has an Og type feel to it. It has the depth to it. It has the genuine authenticity to it. Love it so very much. What does it mean today? What is that it thing to act now? What are you trying to act on today?
I love that. So one of the things that I've learned through trial and error, and one of the most challenging sales positions in the entire world, and then super achieving in that area, is that Og puts it so well when he says, happiness may not be the fruit plucked by my action.
Wow.
But without action, all fruit dies on the vine. And to me, like, without taking action, we don't even stand a chance. Like, we don't have any chance. And here's the thing, we may feel entitled because we've taken action that we're entitled to success. And I've learned from a ton of failure and a ton of trial and error, and then back of that, some success, that we are not entitled to success. But in order to even have a chance at success, we have to take action. And one of the biggest blockers of action is our fear, which is why we gotta pluck the FUD. We gotta get rid of that fear. And one of the best ways to do that is taking massive, quick, decisive action.
Man, that is so good. It's so true. I know that sometimes, the world of direct selling and network marketing is like, hey, if you've got bad news, you got to call your upline. You can't call your downline. You have to stay in the positive. And, I'm always taught about, go make a phone call to your upline, get the hottest, freshest story, renew your confidence, renew your hope, your faith, your belief. Martin put a good one up on the screen there. Amanda just had it there a minute ago. A great secret of life, for I perceive that at least all my problems, discouragements, heartaches are in truth great opportunities in disguise. You found that when you found that your burden was light in that dark, heavy moment, or weeks and months.
Absolutely. I love that. Was that Martin who said that?
Lockwood's over there. I think Martin's over in France, perhaps. Thank you, Martin, for joining the show. That was a great comment.
Thank you, Martin.
I'm taking a lot of notes here, Ben Ward, but I'm going to pause for a minute because, as you know, the greatest salesman in the world, the Og Mandino Company, they sponsor this show. I just happen to be the ambassador. And it's my encouragement to everybody as we get into your book here in a minute. Sellership and salesmanship, all of the stuff we're talking about here today, your burden can be lighter if you'll have a white hat hacker, a true professional, help you on the journey in your Facebook endeavors, knowing that you connect with people on Facebook. You can go to this, you see the angle right there, habitfinder.com/social VIP. I just had a friend of mine who has 500,000 followers on Facebook say, I love this program. It takes the guesswork out of when to like, when to share, what to say, what not to like, and let those algorithms work for you. It is powerful beyond belief. You definitely want to spend a few dollars so that you can tap in to the 2.5 billion people that are on Facebook. And the Og Mandino Company is bringing it to you with the best online social presence you could possibly have. habitfinder.com/social VIP. Now, that's my commercial. But better than a commercial is your experience because you've lived it. When you wrote the book Sellership, what was the original goal for you?
The original goal was, as I've worked with leaders over the years, I've found that most sales leaders actually got their position because they were good at sales. And selling and leading are two totally different skill sets. And there's this just like giant gap. It's like a gap in a canyon. And so over the years, I've uncovered a few very tangible strategies to help somebody transition successfully from selling to leading. And so, in fact, Brian Tracy comes back into the picture. The reason that I co-wrote this. I wrote this book, and Greg's my co-author, and he and I strategized and decided we wanted Brian Tracy. And part of the reason why is Brian planted this seed in my mind about 10 years ago. The first time I met him was 12 years. I told you about that experience. A couple years later, Brian came to a mastermind retreat, and we were chatting, And I have a picture. I didn't prepare. I'd show you this picture of us at this cabin retreat back in the day. But Brian planted this seed in my mind, and it just always rung true. He said, one of the problems is that great managers, great salespeople don't necessarily make great managers. They can, but there's and so he planted that seed, and over the next 10 years after that, I went to work just in the trenches, leading and seeing that problem, and I uncovered a few keys. And so when we told Brian about the book, he's like, I'm in. Yes, this is needed. We shared with him the strategies, and he was all about it. And so he wrote the foreword so graciously. But the goal of this book was to help people transition successfully into leadership, and especially bridge that gap between sales and leadership, and help kind of like a bridge over the canyon.
And what inspired you to use the character in the book named Dan?
Well, yeah. You know what? It was honestly sitting in your couch, and the way so the true leader, I learned this from Kevin Hall and from you. A true leader lives and bleeds and breathes and exudes Genshai. And Genshai is just this idea of to never treat another person in a manner that would make them feel small. And Dan, I'm sitting in at your office at your home, and you just have this powerful spirit that just you made me feel so respected. And I'm not trying to give you but this is the truth. This is what happened. This is why I named the main character Dan after our good friend Dan McCormick, because of the way that you feel in Dan's presence. That is true leadership right there.
Wow. I love you, brother. That's really kind of you. You know that I love words so much, and you mentioned Kevin Hall, and I introduced you to Kevin, and you know that I love the fact that you put the origin of the word salesmanship in there, seller. Why don't you tell people about that? And it's just so great to see your comments, everybody. I just love having you. Keep chiming in here, and this is great stuff. But I love this word so very much, and I want our audience to be able to appreciate it, because it's just magical, because words have a way of giving us hope and feeling the love of human nature, if you will, the origin of words. It's like Stephen Covey wrote the foreword to Kevin Hall's book, and he starts off with the word, and that's the beginning of the Bible. It's the word, right? So tell us about this word, if you will.
Yeah. So the word sales actually comes from the root of this word sales comes from the Old English word called salan. And so it's S-E-L-L-A-N, salan. And the salan means, translated directly, to give.
Wow. You guys, you got to love that. Who's going to write that in the comments for it? Everyone, please. I hope everyone will type that in the comments, because we need everyone to understand that that's what we do. We give, whether it's hope, whether it's life, friendship, love. We solve problems. We give. And please carry on. I interrupted you, but I just love it so much.
I love it. And so, Dan, here's the thing. I'm going to be bold, but I'm going to speak the truth on this. Understanding this, the key to Salan. The key to Salan is the focus of the give. Because what gives sales a bad reputation is the focus on ourselves, giving ourselves as the salesperson, giving us what we want. That's what gives sales a bad rep. And here's the key, is that I've learned this. I've earned my first, this is where I said I'm going to be pretty bold. I earned my first $1 million in sales commission by the time I was 26. Learning this one principle. When I shifted my focus of Salan, when I shifted my focus of the give to how can I legit give value to this other person, and when I started shifting from being like commission breath, where I'm like, what can I do to give me what I want, to shift to give people what they want, everything changed. when there became when there became a true desire to do my best to serve that person and Salan in a way to give them what they wanted, that's when everything turned. And that's what the greatest salespeople in the world that are professionals, not sleazy and slimy, but are professionals, are so good at the true, authentic meaning and intention of sales, which is Salan, which is to give.
I knew everybody would love it. I hope you guys all love it as much as I do, because the title of this book, The Greatest Salesman in the World, and then to have the author of Sellership explain that like nobody's ever explained it, to give. Tamara, thank you. If I said your name right, Tamari, Shar, Ed, Maggie, everybody, thank you so very much for jumping in on that. I got notes like crazy here. We're not going to have time for all this, but I wonder if you wouldn't, who do you think the book is perfect for?
This book right here?
Sellership. This book, and I'm guessing that they go together.
Yeah, like, amen right there. Yeah. This book is perfect. Sellership, and let's put them together. These books are perfect for anybody who's striving to become their very best, and especially with Sellership, if you're leading a team with the greatest salesman, if you're leading a team, you're going to want to plant these words into the minds of the people that you lead. And if you're leading a team, this is just filled with decades of wisdom from Greg Reed, who's amazing, from Brian Tracy, from myself, who've been in the trenches leading on what does it take to successfully lead your team. If you want to draw out the natural best in the people that you lead, you do not want to miss out on extracting the knowledge and information that you can gain right here at Sellership.
Fantastic. Congratulations. It's an amazing journey. It's your first book, is that right?
Yes.
And I know you've got a YouTube page. People can find that at thebenward.com, I believe. You've got a lot of free videos on all kinds of topics. And it was funny when you and I are having a conversation. It wasn't funny. It was awesome. When you and I were having a conversation a month or so ago, and you said, I don't want to sound like self-promotional or salesy, but I just did a video on that. I asked you a question. I just did a video on that. What if you just go back to this video right here, this day, this time? And it was great, because I wonder if you could speak to how you're trying to systematically impact your own brand by doing your videos. How often are you doing them, and what inspires you to pick the topic, et cetera?
Yeah, once a week. So listen, I'm coaching and mentoring sales leaders and executives, and while I'm out there working, I did a training in Kauai with one of my clients last week, and with an executive leadership. And while I'm in there in the trenches now on the other side of mentoring and coaching, just these ideas from my experience come out, and like coaching moments. I'm like, I gotta get some of these things that leaders actually face, real challenges, and put them in short clips from anywhere from 4 minutes to 12 minutes, roughly, of just pure training. And so I have a YouTube channel. I just started it 8 or 9 months ago. I've got like 50 videos that every leader, if you lead a sales team or if you lead a team of any kind, it's just chock full of real applicable, actionable tips and tools for you.
It really is amazing to think that Og wrote this 50 years ago. Obviously, there's very few videos on Og. They're out there, but there's few. They didn't have that capability back then. And the difference is Og is, the old-fashioned way sold tens of millions of copies of books. And it's just such genuine, unique. There's such a genuine, unique rhythm to his writing. And you can see his life in his writing. And you can see him going through his living hell in his writing, whether it's the Christ Commission, whether it's The Choice, whether it's The Greatest Success, The Greatest Secret, The Greatest Salesman. There's so many of them. And yet here we have you today with 50 videos in a year. A world can go watch those videos, millions and millions, hundreds of millions, billions of people, et cetera. And it's just awesome to have you on the show. And I hope that Tamara Ray, I got your name right. Thank you for telling me how to say your name, Tamara Ray. And it's great to meet you. We're glad you're here. And Maggie, I'm glad you're rereading. Maggie Lynn Iglesias rereading. Yes. Can he get sellership in France, Ben?
Would love your help to read it in France, in French. No, we don't. It's currently just in English, read by myself, and Brian Tracy read the foreword in it on Audible or iTunes.
But will Amazon ship it there?
Oh, yeah.
I think they will.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, so here we go, everybody. If you're here today, the greatest salesman in the world, you got the book, you've read the book. If you haven't, it's a must. It's like a mainstay for all top leaders. And sellership, obviously, been out now for I think 90 days.
Yes.
4 months.
Yep.
100 days or so. And we're going to recommend everybody get that. And if you're new to the show, like the show, share the show, comment. And I wonder, in closing, as I already encouraged everybody, if you want to be your best, hire the best, smartest people in the world to help you be your best on Facebook. Do thehabitfinder.com/social VIP, and you will be a professional on Facebook, which is where most of you are communicating with your teams, your prospects, and expressing your leadership, if you will. So that is that. Now, in closing, Ben, you've got a wife, you've got a beautiful family, you're down there in beautiful sunny Southern California. You've got the San Clemente Pier behind you, I believe. What does Ben Ward want to be remembered by? And Sharon, I believe, has the book. Anyway, tell us how you'd like to be remembered.
I want to be remembered as somebody that genuinely cares. I want my kids to be like, my dad really cared about me. And maybe he didn't always do all the right things. You know, he could have probably done that differently. And I want to be remembered as the leader that genuinely cared about the people that I lead. And I want them to say, one of the most fulfilling things is from people I've led 15, 20 years ago to come back and be like, man, I really, I don't remember everything that I learned a lot. It was great, but I always knew that you genuinely had my back. You had my best interest at heart. And I believe as leaders, when the people that we lead know that we genuinely care about them, like that covers all of the things that we do wrong. Like it's like a blanket of, it just kind of blocks out some of the things that all of us, if you're not making mistakes as a leader, we're not leading. And so, but I want to be known as the person, the leader, the dad, the husband that really genuinely cared.
I love it. I'm kind of thinking that, I mean, I got incredible notes. I can't wait to go back and rewatch and share with other people, others of my leaders that perhaps didn't see it. But I'm thinking we kind of have to thank Mike Proudfit for you giving us what you gave us. And maybe Mike is a future guest on the show. I don't know, but that's great that you connected it. Thank you for my friend Peter Vidmar introduced. He says, you got to meet this guy. You got to meet this guy. He says, you guys are like so much alike. And so the first time we met, of course, we're sitting in my office just going at it for hours, having so much fun, talking about books and leaders and concepts and words. And today was a lot of fun for me, Ben Ward. Continued success to you. And may everybody be able to glean something, maybe the most important word in your selling career, salam, and understanding the paradigm to give. And I give my thanks to you, Ben, for taking the time being here. God bless you. Success in the journey. And maybe we'll make it on your podcast one day with the Greatest Salesman podcast. You can dovetail us in there. And everybody that's been here, yes, it's great. A lot of fun. Look forward to being with you next week on another great podcast. My name is Dan McCormick on behalf of Ben Ward. BenWard.com. Dan McCormick here, the ambassador to the Og Mandino Company on the Greatest Salesman podcast. Have the greatest day of your life, and bye for now.